Hey everybody, happy Thursday. Sorry, a bit late today. We had a really important sales call and that just went over, and unfortunately that took priority. So I hope you forgive me for that, but those of you that are Truth token holders will forgive me for that because it was really for the Truth token and it was for the Truth Network and Truflation Index Fund being able to get more visibility and bigger distribution across the marketplace. So that was pretty exciting. I'm pumped. I love sales calls, as you guys know. And if you don't know, now you know. Yeah, but it went really well. At least I think it did. Let's see how it ends up. But I think we got a number of different proposals out there that are getting an interesting level of traction and a lot of interest. Data is the big thing. In order to feed AI engines, you need data. We have a lot of data, and we're building out our AI solution. So super glad to be working on that. And thank you for your patience. And again, apologies for being a bit late for this episode. Happy Thursday. I'm Stefan Rust. I'm the founder of Truflation and of the Truth Network. Glad to be here and happy to share with you what we're working on. I'm going to cover off a bit of macro stuff, a bit of the China stuff. As I mentioned on Tuesday, I would go into a bit more detail around China and this whole brouhaha around go to war, right? And what is happening there. And then we'll go into some of the alpha that you can identify when using Truflation and how you can identify it. So our team have been working with our clients on how to identify the truth and how to actually leverage Truflation to help you find alpha. So anyway, all of that is you got to do your own research. It's obviously not investment advice, etc. But just hope you enjoy this show. We'll try and keep it to 20, 30 minutes. And we're now 5 minutes in, but 3 minutes was a precursor. So I'm 2 minutes in and I'll get straight into the depth of it. Yeah, it's not looking too shiny for the US economy. Right now, we're in the 100 days of thunder, and the thunder is going down. People are a bit more worried about the forecast of GDP. It's come down significantly. Here you've got, the Atlanta Fed downgrading their forecast. They actually think negative growth. Why? I guess largely because a lot of Doge and the capital efficiency and the money not spreading into the market, and those 5,000 different agencies that are out there earning money from the government are no longer clocking that as productivity and adding that to the GDP, even though it doesn't really add much in terms of productivity. It is just the government spending lots of money, which is being fixed, which is great. But yeah, ultimately, things are going down. People are seeing this downturn. And guess what? The Fed is so next week we have two major next 2 weeks we have two major updates. Number one, inflation number comes out next week, and the week after that the FOMC sits together. Who are the FOMC? They are the people that come together and decide in a dark cloaked room around inflation, interest rates, right? How are the interest rates going to move for longer term bonds and loans, right? So how do they pay money on what should the guideline be, or what will the Fed pay um, for lending out money? Anyway, that's sort of what they're looking at, and so based on that, here we go, right? So you can see here it's down. We're also seeing a lot of unemployment growing, right? So not only is the GDP coming down, unemployment's going up, whereas employment, we'll see, I don't know yet, but unemployment's going down. We've got the JOLT numbers coming out. We had numbers coming out the other day. I think today something came out. But anyway, you can see here the numbers of employees according to the Office of Personnel Department. You can see here, why is it not interacting with? There you go. You can see here, federal judge blocked. No, that's not what we're talking about. The 75,000 federal employees have accepted the offer for leaving work and employment with the government, and on February 12th. So this was nearly a month ago. So you've got 75,000. I think they were hoping for 220,000, which is 10% of the workforce, right? So there's about 2 million of the workforce. And so that's now beginning to be shedded. And what does that mean? So again, and inflation's down, right? So if you believe Truflation, look at that number. It's just rocketing down to 1.3%. A lot of economists are commenting on that, and that's sort of more an accurate reflection. And remember, this is year on year inflation. This is this year compared to the same time last year. So if you look at this in aggregate view, remember, you're going to see that ultimately we are at 26% in aggregate. But since the beginning of the year, and since Trump's taken office and his new cabinet's kicked in, you're seeing a decline. You're seeing that come down. You can significantly see a decline in inflation over time. And the previous period was under Biden. And you can see how that a bit of a reflection of where the market is. And right now it's coming down. Prices on goods are coming down. And then you can come into here and see the composition. Where is it coming down? Food is coming down significantly. Why is food coming down? I guess the supply chain stabilized, and yeah, as a result, food's come down. Ooh, look at this. We're also seeing other lodging coming down. So hotel, Airbnb prices coming down significantly. The housing market seeing it coming down as well. Transportation dropping significantly thanks to gas and oil, right? Which actually leads to the next slide, which really highlights the drop in oil prices, right? We broke through the 70 barrier quite a bit earlier, and now we're down at some 60 something dollars, 65 something, right? So it's been coming down significantly. Why? OPEC have reduced their restrictions. So they've increased their production of oil, ultimately bringing more supply into the market. Either they need to be making more money, or they want to, there's some trade negotiations with the US to bring more oil to the market so that ultimately the price of energy drops below a certain threshold, and oil ultimately is one of the major sources of inflation. And we see our team have put together a nice correlation of the price of oil and inflation. And you can see when oil prices go up, inflation goes up. When oil prices come down, inflation comes down. So there's definitely a strong correlation there. You can see the oil price come down here, and then guess what? Inflation's coming here. So there's a significant correlation in real time, not waiting for the 1 month BLS. I mean, look, where would they be? I don't know, man. You'd never see this kind of information if you were waiting for the BLS. But now we have in real time accurate reflection of the data. So that's super exciting to see. And yeah, now you can leverage Truflation.com and the data to do these correlations. You can download the data, do your own calculations, and very soon we'll have an announcement to make where you'll be able to do these correlations in your favorite tool, if not on Truflation.com itself. You can already do a compare on Truflation.com, and I'll get to that a bit later. But yeah, so what else is happening, right? And then what does all of this mean, right? I've just shared with you and why this looks really negative. GDP down, cost of oil down, good. Inflation down, good. And the unemployment rising. So what does that mean? Are we all getting depressed and everything? I actually don't think so. I think that actually there's going to be a shift in the market, and we talked about it the other day. I mean, who am I to say that? But ultimately, I'm just trying to use facts and look at the facts of what we're seeing out in the marketplace. And one of the things that we are seeing right now is the fact that people are beginning to believe more and more that there is going to be a drop in interest rates, right? So it went from 4% down to 6%, down to 7%, up to 7%, sorry, from 4 to 6 to 7. So one day ago, it's already dropped again to 7. Kalshi as a contradictory, another source, they're still ultimately 94 and 6, so a bit lagging. I somehow can't get Polymarket to load, so I can't show that. But I just put a big bet out on Polymarket. Maybe that's why my computer doesn't like the fact that I did a bet on another computer for that. But here you can see Yeah, 94. The odds, if they drop at 25 on, I don't know what it's like here, but if you look, let's see, pick a side here. So if I put, let's say, $100 in here, look at that payout. I'm only getting 105, so that's pretty boring. With the cut of, so I'm saying yes. I'm saying yes, they will cut, and I'm putting in. Let's put in $10. You're getting a 167 return. So if you put in $1,000, look at that. That's $16,000 return. What's the likelihood of that? And now let's say I go yes over here for a 20 greater than 25 basis points cut. And here you go, $1,000, you get $100,000 return. Is that likely? I don't know. The odds are not looking in your favor, but there is an interesting upside that could be had if it does actually happen. Right now, the odds are not looking very good. Ultimately, it's still super early, remember? So if you buy now and the odds change based on what the inflation numbers are next week, you can see a significant change. You have to do your own research. It's not advice. I'm just telling you what I might be doing, right? Thanks, Kishan, Petgrave, watching live. Cool. Thanks for joining. Glad to have you here. And let me know if you have any comments or you want me to address something. But yeah, hope you like what you see. But yeah, I don't know. Do you bet on Kalshi? Tell me in the likes, guys. Do you guys bet on Kalshi? Do you do Polymarket? Or where do you bet and try to find prediction? There was a really good blog post. I don't know if you've seen that, but it was by Vitalik talking about info finance versus prediction markets. Did you guys see that? Really, from prediction markets to info finance. Yeah. So check this out. And so what he talks about here, sorry, I'm digressing. This is brand new. Needs screen sharing. What should I do? I don't know. Yeah, you can see my screen, right? So you got all of this here. But I think what you can see here is, there's been, I mean, I think what he says is basically since 2015, we had prediction markets, right? And it was really early on. Nobody really knew about it. And by the way, Shane was one of the really, Shane was early on. He wasn't with Augur, but one of his other investors was with Augur and was, I think, employee number 2. They were sharing dorm rooms, and basically Shane is the founder of Polymarket, and then ultimately built out a prediction market with a much better user experience, right? So user experience in terms of explaining the value of a prediction market is really important. UX helps drive adoption. And so Shane did an amazing job with Polymarket to really drive that. And here he goes, there are two faces, the betting side for the participants and the news side for everyone else. So ultimately, why is this news? It acts as opinions. It gives you things to talk about and it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? So if people bet, I story about it. If I story about it, people will come and bet. So it's a sort of virtual cycle. And he adds a third element into there, right? And he says it really grew out of elections and it was only related to elections. And so now he wants to talk about it becoming info finance more broadly. So the new sources of truth or the new sources of information for financial investments and speculation could be prediction markets. Guess what? We think that is, and that's why indexes on top of the Truth Network are a crucial element to identifying that. Where do I get indexes? Why? What's in an index is underlying assets. Where and how can I predict on indexes? Go to index.fund and predict on them. Go to other prediction pools and be able to predict on them. You can then identify here, these are the indexes with these underlying tokens. I can get information on whether people like this index or not and believe this index is going up. If this index goes up, so do the underlying assets. Those are things that all come out. And so you have a bettor and you have a reader. And then you have a people that write for these as well, right? And so any news influences the outcome of a probability, yes and no. Anyway, check this blog out. It's an interesting read. It's quick, it's easy. You don't need to do too much, but ultimately it really leads down an interesting path. And that's why, if you look at this info finance, what is this telling you? For $10, you can make, if they cut more than 25%, you can make $1,000. So you can make 100x if that you win. Now this may change over time as we get more and more data. And remember, this meeting, I think, is on March 20th. So stay tuned and watch out for that. Yeah, and I think, sort of the other thing is everybody's really scared and worried about the market right now, right? And um, why is it so tumultuous? I think there are two big reasons, right? I mean, we have tariff wars and we have the threat of going to war, right? Germany just announced that they would break their long-standing constitution to print more money so that they could buy more weapons and go to war. The question is, and Ursula von der Leyen was out there talking about Europe investing $800 billion to rearm and arm up. You had Macron on TV talking about nuclear armament and nuclear weapons and nuclear protection. I don't know how that works, but ultimately he's really trying to fire up the team and countries for war. Do we really want to go to war? I don't know. I've never been to war. I don't want to go to war. And I look at the pictures of war. It sure as hell don't look fun and don't look nice. But I am not a proud national of France or the UK. And by the way, those two countries, I believe, have professional armies, whereby Germany, I think, has national service. So I don't know if that makes a difference. But anyway, rather than worrying about their internal problems, their own balance sheets, and the deficit that are incurring, they're happy to go to war and spend more money. So distract from the real problems. And what is at play? Are they really listening to the population, or are they, more importantly, just worried about their own ego and trying to find an outcome? And they back themselves so much into a wall that they have no other way out but to go the route that they suggest. And no humility, not listening to what their community's saying or the people that have voted them and elected them into power are saying. But either way, we have other couples of war which are more important, which are really the war in the markets, the stock markets. They don't like the tariff wars. And by the way, everybody's so confused about tariffs. Are we on with tariffs? Are we off with tariffs? Are they tariffs conceded? What's coming into 2nd of April? All of a sudden, automakers, international automakers are pumping. China is pumping because there's an extension to the 2nd of April. Oh my God, so everybody's building this narrative. And what it really means is there's a changing world order. And as such, and there's a changing game. The trade deficit that the US is incurring is no longer open market and open field. China has always had a trade surplus because they negotiate like tigers. They do really well. Everything has a tariff coming into China. Everything has to be a joint venture when launching production in China. The only excuse, I mean, there are certain exceptions. Tesla is one of them, but others are not, right? And so why? And that is ultimately leading to a crazy market, nobody understanding what's really going on. This craziness is driving uncertainty, which is actually leading to a market crash, which is sort of what Amit Investing is saying here. Follow Amit. He's always got really good insights, especially if you're interested in non-crypto assets like Palantir. Like he was one of the first influencers and leaders in Palantir, but other areas as well. But either way, he put this post together where it actually summarizes why are we driving all these prices down, and why is there a greater probability as to why interest rates might drop? Because there needs to be refinancing, right? Do we need to refinance these 7 trillions of debt? We need to refinance them. And there is no refinancing over here, but ultimately these are 10-year bonds and they need refinancing, and we don't want to refinance them at 5% interest. If we can drop that to 3%, then ultimately think about that significant 7 trillion at 3% versus 7 trillion at 5%. You do the maths. That has a significant impact on the P&L of the US government. And so maybe that's sort of also part of the 100 Days of Thunder and what we're seeing right now. But I think more importantly around the tariffs, if you go to Twitter and just go search tariff war, China, US, I mean, there's there's a huge battle going on, and I think the media is making this out to be something much bigger than it really is. I think it's actually pretty much a nothing burger. Yeah, everybody says, "Oh, tariffs is going to make inflation happen." No, it's not. The money printer and the liquidity is a far greater threat to inflation than the actual tariffs coming in. The dollar is already dropping. We saw the Dixie coming down. Did we? Did I share that? I don't know. But here you can see the war battle cries. Oh, we're coming to war. We're going to war. Yeah, but then again, if you look at the flip side, you come over here and you see that actually the intellectuals that are out there, the elite in China, the China elite. So these are people that have studied at Tsinghua University, which is the top university in China. It is the hardest university to get to. That's top engineers in there. It's yeah, and so you're seeing here, they talk about tariffs don't even rank in the top three in China. They're not worried about it. They want to grow, number one, their domestic consumption, right? How do they grow that and how do they get out of that? They're going to print lots of money, right? Xi has just made an announcement that he is going to print a lot of money. Why? That devalues the renminbi and makes up for the tariffs. So they can then pay the tariffs and the cost of goods still stay the same. So it's brilliant. Not really, but ultimately not good for the manufacturing capability, but ultimately really good for the products. Inflation doesn't grow, and you're going to see the goods still coming in at affordable prices for everybody to be able to buy. They won't be American goods, they'll still be Chinese goods, but ultimately the Chinese renminbi coming down allows them to pay 20% in tariffs, allows them to fund and turn around the trade deficit that the US has. So that could be in end net a good thing. Yeah, so here they're talking about China fires up money printer to shrug off US tariffs. There you go. So buckle up. This is going to get exciting. Yeah, and then here you've got, yeah, all of this is about the war, creating more and more confusion, etc., etc. So I think just hold on. It's 100 Days of Thunder. We'll work through this and figure this out. Yeah, and I told you I was going to talk a bit more about China, right? And here you can see China's trade surplus, right? Look at their balance. It's just growing and growing and growing in US dollars. And one thing I did mention last time was the fact that actually China's been, anyway, yeah, so it's just growing and growing. So they're having a huge trade surplus, both with Europe as well as with the US. So they seem to be doing really well. And if you haven't seen it, yeah, there's a really good post by Balaji that put this out there that you should see, that really just talks about China and the trade balance with China. I'm just trying to post, I think here it is. No, not there. Here it is. Here it is. Oh no. Yeah, so I can't find it right now, but if you go x.com, you can easily find it. Here, x.com. Yeah, here's the post. So here you can see the post, 10 points on tariffs, right? He talks about Chinese exports. Look at how they go into which country. East Asia is the biggest trading partner, then Europe, then North America, and of which Russia is 2% of their total trading value. Latin America, etc., right? And then here, tariffs hurt allies. Dutch government excludes most ASML sales to China. So yeah, so ASML, which is a high-tech company, they do all the manufacturing equipment for the development of the yeah, that's it. Perfect. Yeah. Yeah, they do all the development for the NVIDIA, the TSML TSMC that actually produce it for NVIDIA. So they create the machines that are needed in the factories that are used to create the machines. So yeah, so that's ASML. Yeah, so they're limited because it's deemed as high tech and shouldn't be sold to China as a result. Yeah, so yeah, at high cost. So look at China's trade worldwide versus the US. Here you can see in 2000, the US had a lot of different trading partners across Africa, Latin America, and since 2024, so 24 years later, China has gazumped everything as the sort of real world top trading partner. And you could argue that's due to the previous administrations that haven't really done anything, right? And the other thing I think is really interesting is actually, am I sharing this tab? Yeah, so if you see this over here, you can see this. I was just scrolling through this. Check out this blog post, 10 points on tariffs from Balaji. So follow Balaji, find out what's going on. You can see everything that he's talking about. But the other thing is, look, all the meanwhile, we go into these tariff wars. You're seeing this big thing take place where China is closing out free trade agreements. Look at all these nations, 25 countries signed, another 18 in negotiations. Are they big countries? I don't know, but you see Switzerland's in there, free trade agreements with Switzerland and China. Wow, Japan, Vietnam, Croatia. Anybody can recognize these flags? What flags do you see? Which ones do you like? Israel still in negotiation. Canada, negotiation with Colombia. What do we have here? Philippines. I think this is Algeria. Anyway, Singapore. Yeah, so lots of different nations that you can see here. Actually, this is Singapore. I think this is Poland. There you go. So yeah, negotiations happening, ongoing, and lots of activity that is happening on the trade basis. And what does that mean? The world order is changing. Again, like I said on Tuesday, we are now having a three-party world where we have Russia in the middle, and then we have China and the US. Ultimately, if you listen to my Danielle DiMartino podcast, which is coming out pretty soon, you'll hear that we are actually in a Cold War right now, and Russia seems to be a strong part of, if allied with the US, will help strengthen the US's position. So I think that's really the game that Trump is playing right now, at the sacrifice of most others. But also there seems to be an alliance, building between US, Italy, Argentina, Hungary, maybe Poland's part of that, but there seems to be something brewing there. So stay tuned, watch out where that's going to go. And if that's going to be the new G7, who knows? We'll find out. But yeah, that's just wanted to share that with you. Coming back to Balaji's post, so you can see that here. You can see all of the insights here, what he's talking about. Tariffs are an unnecessary fight. I mean, people like tariffs, don't like tariffs. I just think it's more of a topic that people want to talk about and are really worried about, and creating a lot of news. Mainstream media ultimately loves it because it gives them something to talk and complain about, etc. But yeah, other than that, that's sort of on a macro scale what's going on. I wanted to bring to you something about the euro dollar versus the Asia dollar. How was the euro dollar created? What does that mean for the Asia dollar? Will there be the creation of an Asia dollar? How does the Hong Kong market and the Hong Kong dollar play into that? There was some really interesting research by Gavikal Research. Check it out, Gavekal, if you want to do some homework in front of that. I'll try and use some of that and other data that we've sort of acquired around that topic. But I think that's actually a big shift, that all of a sudden there's so much US dollars outside in Europe land, and outside in Asia land. And Hong Kong could be potentially that new market where that Asia dollar starts to hub out of, and you can start borrowing and lending, other than not going directly to the US, but going to Hong Kong and doing terms and agreements there. And there will be arbitrage between Hong Kong and the Fed, and Hong Kong and the Asia dollar and the US dollar. That is if that gets created. So please take that and bear that in mind. big macro picture. Sorry, talking about that a lot. Now I want to come to the bigger picture, which is alpha that Truflation can help you find. Sign up to the Truflation newsletter and sign up to our blog posts, our Twitter account. Follow this YouTube channel. Why? Because you will get alpha here and you will find out what this means and how to interpret these graphs. So here you can see we've got Truflation correlated with the 10-year bond yield, right? So when Truflation peaks, you can see the bond yield peak. So every time you see Truflation peak, bond peaks, and they come down, the yield comes down when Truflation comes down. When Truflation comes down, the yield comes down. You see that all the time over here. And so that is just something to pay attention to. How can you use this and interpret this? We will have more details, how to interpret, how to leverage the data. Our team is working to provide better insights on how to interpret, extract, and then work with this data so that you can identify and trade yields. How have we come to this data? We've been working over the last 4 years with institutions to help them extrapolate and calibrate our data to map against that of the BLS. We now do this at a 99.96% accuracy. If we can do that, we know how we can now extrapolate this data and help you identify investment opportunities in bonds, right? Most of our customers are bond traders. They trade, and bonds move based on inflation and interest rates that are tied to the inflation. And so that's why we did a lot of the upfront on that specific topic. So not only can you see the correlation there, we've also looked at the correlation and samples where we can look at how does Truflation operate against the inflation correlated assets, oil, gold, silver. I showed you oil earlier, S&P 500, right? How does that? But I think the biggest sign is really around oil, where you can see here the decline in oil and the decline in Truflation. So oil go down, inflation obviously come down. And we've already identified that correlation and shared that with you right up front in one of the graphs right here. You can see that here. So here you see the decline in oil, which leads to the decline in Truflation. We all know that, but that's just to again highlight why drill, baby, drill is so important. Cost of energy has a significant impact on inflation, which has an impact on interest rates, which has an impact on economy and liquidity in the economy, and has an impact on all of our assets, whether they go up or not, because the more liquidity in the market, the more assets go up. Why? Because you're investing in the assets. So beyond that, coming back to that 10-year, what we tried to do with that 10-year bond, do you remember I just shared this with you? Here you can see the 10-year bond, how it moves. Now imagine you're just relying on the government data. So here, boom, 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 you see the government data in the white line here. Oh my God, it's gone all the way down here and still going up, whereas by everything else is coming down. The government is still telling you upwards. Inflation's still going upwards. So why would you ever rely on that number? This is why we set up Truflation, and this is why we are so confident that these numbers are accurate, and these numbers are the numbers that are going to be the source of truth going forward. We have all of this on the blockchain. I shared with you the Explorer. So the transparency, the methodology, the weighting, all of that is documented in the Explorer, and the actual node operators and the blockchain is doing the calculation and acting as the calculation agent for this index. So that's why we are so excited, and we are so fucking undervalued. Excuse my language, but there you go. I had to say it. We are so undervalued for what people are doing and how they are making money off the back of our data. And you and we are making this available to anybody so that everybody can have access to it. We need some costs covered, But you can go to Truflation.com, get this data, and build your own models, identify own opportunities, or very soon, just put the calibrations in and comparisons in the charts, in the actual charts that you see on the website. And then you too can take advantage of our data, and not just our enterprise customers that are really taking advantage of it. The other thing is we did a correlation between Truflation numbers and Bitcoin price. Why Bitcoin? Bitcoin is an important inflation hedge. And what we've identified is that any time Truflation comes down, subsequently, when it hits a bottom, Bitcoin moves up. You can see it come down again here. It stays flat in this period of time. It goes down, it goes up again. It comes down, Bitcoin goes up. It comes down, hits the bottom, Bitcoin goes up. And we've just seen this come down now. Will that mean Bitcoin goes up? Question mark. So check that out. That's another way of interpreting how Truflation can act as the source of truth for you to identify new alpha opportunities. So these are just ideas. You have to do your own research. This is not investment advice, but ultimately all I'm trying to do is share with you what some of our research teams are working on and are developing for you in advance. And subscribe to the Truflation newsletters, subscribe to our channels, follow us on Twitter, follow us on YouTube, follow this channel so that you can get the alpha before anybody else. And you get the detailed explanations, right? So we provide, if you're following our Twitter, you get a lot of breakdown in terms of how we do the calculations, the justifications of that. And not only you see that in Twitter, you can also get that in our newsletter. And then you can do queries. And if you go to the website, we're soon going to have AI tools in there that allow you to get better insights and understand the correlations even more. So stay tuned for that and sign up for that. If that wasn't enough and you still are underwhelmed, we'll overwhelm you again. The Dixie. What is the Dixie? The Dixie is a basket of products, of currencies against the US dollar. And so here we've done the correlation as well with the Dixie. You can see when Truflation hits its peak and Truflation drops, the Dixie goes down as well. You can see that over and over again. And right now, Truflation's coming down. And guess what? So is the Dixie. Take this, and here again, oh my God, the snoozer out there, the BLS, the Bureau of Lying Statistics, is out there coming up and moving up. They're still going up. Everything else is going down. And that's why we have a 45-day lead on where the government numbers is. How fast a lead do you want? How can you take action associated with this? Get these data sets, move your needle, and identify where you can move it. And if you don't know, ask. We're happy to share and work with you on how we can actually drive alpha. We will share more and more of you. We will share more and more like this with you over time. But here, this is more than enough. Sign up to our newsletters, follow us on the various channels, and you too can get updates. And you'll get deeper explanations into this as we start formulating these new strategies on Truflation.com. So sign up, get some insights, and hope you enjoyed this. I know it's 40 minutes, maybe minus 4 minutes. So yeah, I'm a bit longer than usual, but I felt that was a very comprehensive. Tell me what you like. Do you want more of the technical analysis? Do you want more of the macro overview? Do you want more insights into the tariff disputes? Do you want more insights into China, what's going on over there? Please let me know what you think and how we can improve the content to deliver to you and how we can highlight Truflation, the Truth Network, and other products being built on the Truth Network so that you too can benefit from those. How would you like that being shared shared with you. We did the Nuon interview with Cam. Check that out. There's a lot of alpha in there. There's huge yield opportunity for you in there as well. Please have a look and look forward to circling back with you on Tuesday. Yeah, sign up to our newsletters, follow us on the various channels, subscribe, hit like, subscribe button, all the necessary things that you need to do. I'm supposed to say that because if I don't say that, we don't get up the rankings, and we're trying to get up the rankings and break through the Twitter rankings as well as the YouTube rankings. So thank you, everybody. Hope you enjoyed this. Stay tuned. We'll have a lot more content for you. And by the way, Truth Network and the Truth Token is highly undervalued. And that's all I can say. Given all of this opportunity that you've seen here and the ability for you on your own to do your own research and identify huge upside opportunities in all different types of economic situations. Thank you, everybody. Hope you enjoyed this and have a great weekend. And I'll see you next Tuesday. And we'll try and get a nice countdown in there already set up in YouTube. We'll figure that out. Thanks, everybody. Bye for now.